The MAXX, famously created by Sam Keith, is finally getting a live-action treatment by Paramount Pictures with Channing Tatum and Roy Lee starring. So let's talk about the actual comics that make up MAXX's history. And a lot of these you can find in the dollar bin, so keep your eyes peeled. But if you want to already follow me on Instagram and Facebook, more of that at the end. But we're going to skip the intro today, and we're going to jump right into the books that make up the MAXX. Now, MAXX is a huge history, a lot of early stuff by Sam Keith. Let's not get over. And so there's a lot of books to talk about here. So we're going to jump right into Comical Primer number 4. Now, even Key Collector doesn't mention this book. Most people don't really know about this book. But at the end of Comical Primer number 4, there is a final page where you can see MAXX with one X, the hair shown for the first time ever. It is technically Sam Keith's first ever published work. And this one's completely ignored. Now, of course, this is supposed to be set up for Comical Primer number 5, the next book I'm going to talk about. And I guess that's technically the first full appearance of MAXX the Hair, again with one X. And he looks different than the MAXX. He's more bunny-like. Where, the MAXX in the comic is actually the embodiment of like a bunny. It's like the spirit animal he's trying to be. But he doesn't have the giant ears until like the last issue where he looks a little bit different. But you don't really get that. That look. He definitely changed a lot. And Comic Primer 4, it's pretty much a $1 book. Comic Primer 5, however, is a very expensive book. You'd say $80 to $100 sometimes. So, and maybe even more. I don't know what's going for at the moment, but I've seen it go for over 100 at times. So, it's a big misconception if you ask me. But I guess because Sam Keith's written on the cover, his name's on the cover, MAXX the Hair's on the cover, and the actual stories in the book, and it's only 4 is the preview, but if you ask me, there's no real rules of this stuff, so what's it really matter? Moving on, we got Critters number 7. Sam Keith did a lot of early work in the industry alongside other independent legends, such as like Stan Sakai, Steve Gillespie, Freddie Milton, and even Alan Moore worked on this book. And it's definitely a series worth keeping an eye out for, just because it's a fun run. It got a lot of early works, again, like Stan Sakai doing early Usagi Yojimbo stuff. Neat like 80s dollar bin comics. And some of you have a little bit of low print runs. But it's also the first appearance of the Izza, little iconic impy dude from the MAXX series with like the Langolier mouth. And this predates MAXX in its true form. And he's in there thumping around with the lizard dude. So, and let's get a little time check here. Remind you, we're in 1986. This is going to be important because time is Sam Keith's worst enemy. Anything Goes number 2. Same year. In this issue also has a Frank Miller cover, and Alan Moore, Jack Kirby, Joe Sinnott, and of course Sam Keith worked on this book. And look, there's an Izza again. Cool little thing. I Before E number 1 reprints the original story for Primer number 5 in a very early MAXX outing. And I believe this is the first time you ever see him labeled with the 2 X's. This issue also came out in August of 91, issue to finish off the series and have more MAXX content. That would come out in March of 92. Comic Talk number 1 is the first MAXX cover, sort of. I guess I Before E and Comic Talk 1 it's weird. But as far as I know, there's nothing inside this book other than an interview with creator Sam Keith. So mind you, this is 1983. So now we're going to fast forward 10 years on a long journey for Sam Keith. Or we've already fast forwarded 10 years. Excuse me. Because we started in 83, now this is 93. So it's taken 10 years and we still have no MAXX book out. We've just had little hints and stuff. So Sam Keith is, of course, his biggest problem is deadlines. It's not the comic crash. It's not none of that stuff. It is deadlines. That is his worst enemy. Inside Image number 1 would come out as a preview for MAXX number 1. Issue 20 also has a Sam Keith goodness inside of it. And up till this point, I thought I knew what I was doing until I saw I was doing a little bit extra research just to make sure my timeline's right. And Topher from CBSI did a list on the MAXX. And he swapped these 2 books around. And I did a little bit of research, and it seems that he's right. Normally, I would put Darker Image 1 here, this book right here. I've always known I have a bunch of copies. I have some false hope in it being sort of his first appearance. But MAXX 1 actually came out first. They're both in March of 93. But apparently MAXX 1 came out first. And clearly the beginning of the MAXX series, we get introduced to characters and the story. And I guess it's for Sarah, Mr. Gone, Julia Winters, and the MAXX as we know them at least. It's also first Outback, which is the weird dimension they go to, sort of their subconscious. And it's full of a bunch of weird monsters. And it's a main part of the MAXX story. There's a million copies out here. They literally made over, I think, 2 million plus copies of MAXX 1. I have one. I have multiple of them. I just pulled a Darker Image 1 to show you. But, of course, it's a classic. Everyone's seen it. Everyone probably has it. There's so many of these. But the newsstand's a little bit tough. I picked one up in Dollar a little bit ago. It's not impossible, but it goes for a couple bucks. And there's the glow-in-the-dark variant. That one's fun, too. And they also have a limit of 500 copies signed and numbered. Keith variant. There's ash cans that are black, yellow, red, and blue. Those are all signed and limited. And, issue 2 and 3 would also get a couple ash cans as well. Then we move on to Darker Image number 1. Now, again, I had a lot of false hope in this book. I always have known this as first MAXX, because this is the book that's supposed to set up MAXX. It was supposed to come out first. It's supposed to set up MAXX, supposed to set up Blood Wolf, and it's supposed to set up Deathblow. And actually, this was put out polybagged with the different cards of MAXX, Deathblow, and Blood Wolf. And so originally, Dark Image was supposed to be Sam Keith's series, and eventually it would kind of just one and done to set up this new second generation of Image characters, and Sam Keith to go forward with the MAXX. So originally supposed to be what kicked off the MAXX, and Sam Keith was actually supposed to do more with the Darker Image stuff, but it just never happened. There's also, again, another rare newsstand that I've also picked up in the dollar bin. And don't forget, they made a gold foil version of this, a platinum, and a red ash can, and, so they're just some fun stuff to keep an eye out for. MAXX number 4, we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Origin of Sarah. Albeit throughout the series, these characters' backstories get warped and changes, and the audience understanding is always wrong. At least that's how it feels at times when you're reading MAXX, because it's all going to change drastically. This issue, also has some shots at the Sandman universe. MAXX number 14, we had a glimpse of a horse MAXX thing, later known as Norbert. Again, part of that, like a MAXX is like a rabbit, there's a horse MAXX. And then MAXX 18 and 19, we get introduced the giant mountain monster Hooli in the Outback. It's ridiculous. MAXX 21 was co-written by Alan Moore. So this is the only Alan Moore story for the MAXX, I believe. So it's just kind of neat. I'm a big Alan Moore fan. It's also a monumental issue that starts the warp where you really think about the characters. There's a few time jumps, and Sarah loses the H in her name. It's weird. MAXX 22 is for Steve, who's a side character in like 5 or 6 issues. So this also introduces the Yellow Slug Lago, who's an upcoming villain, but he was set up technically in the prologue issue 20, so yes, you can call it his, like, I don't know, his cameos first. Doesn't really matter. I don't know. But Lago's like a villain towards the end of the book. Now, mind you, the first 13-ish issues are pretty strong in this book. Really, the first 6 are pretty strong in this book. And as you go on, Sam Keith's writing does get a little bit worse and worse. The art is a little bit less coherent as it is in the beginning, and it's definitely like, I believe the series was to end around 20, and so the last couple issues, last like 15-ish issues, are just made to be made. So some of the stuff isn't nearly as good, but it is sought after. A lot of it gets lower prints. The series is full of 35 tough newsstands, and the later run does get a lot scarcer as it goes on. Low distribution numbers, especially the last couple issues. Issue 35 being the final and the rarest of the book, and 30's got that hard to find black cover that's always ticked to oblivion. But 35 is the classic issue. It's the end of the story, and it's really never been sequeled properly. Like I'm gonna get into some later MAXX stuff, but the MAXX story ends at 35. There's really nothing past that. And for many years, there was nothing else after issue 35 came out. But we're going to backtrack a little bit. I mean, the trade paperbacks are also kind of tough. The lower print runs, not all of them are super expensive, but they're not easy to find. And some of them can be 100 plus. So the MAXX trade paperbacks up till the IDW stuff, the IDW stuff's a little bit easier to find. But the original trades aren't that easy. Savage Dragon 27 and 28 is a 2-part crossover story with the MAXX, and also inside of the MAXX, issue 6, 7, and 8 have crossovers of Savage Dragon or the Pit, because at the time, Image was just trying to push their bigger universe, so you had to have crossovers, even though it doesn't really fit and it makes no sense, but whatever. Although 98 Image did do a crossover with the Altered Image, is what they called it, and they had all the characters in there, including MAXX. Although I am surprised that Spawn never made it into the actual MAXX series, and Savage Dragon Pit did instead of Spawn, because you think Spawn would be shoved into every title. But of course, sticking with the crossovers, we do a speedrun of all the MAXX crossovers I know of. There's Mars Attacks Image, War of Independence, some Supersonic Special Royal Rumble issue, MAXX Gen 13 one-shot, then Gen 13 issue 13 he's in, Youngblood 9, Blood Wolf 2, Freak Force 15, Halloween Troll Special, Dark Horse Hay Endings, Amateur number 1, Popbot 2, a DV8 number 1 variant cover where he's on the TV, and then there's a couple here at Initiative one-shots, and I think that's all of them, I'm pretty sure. And I'm also sure not all of these are official and ran by Sam Keith, but they're there. They exist nonetheless. MAXX #1 would be reprinted in 98 as the 3D version, and with that, of course, gimmick. I believe they did Spawn one as well. And it has a new original story in it. So I guess that's neat. Gay Comics 24. I mean, look at the cover. It's just kitchen sink doing wild shit, which is what they did. I'm not sure if MAXX is in the book, though. I don't know in this one. He might be. I don't know. And then on to some weird Wizard stuff. Wizard Magazine #16 is a super early MAXX cover appearance, predating for the first issue of the MAXX, and he's also on the cover of 20 as well. And then to talk about some of the weird off the wall original Wizard Magazine stuff for the MAXX. Of course, they made a 1/2 issue between 3 and 4 with the regular having purple lettering, and then there's some weird variants that are either red, blue, or gold foil. The red and the blue are ghosts that never show up. It's rumored that they only sold them on early internet, but I'm not sure if the red ever hit the market. Only 10 copies rumored to exist for the blue foil. One is actually currently signed and slabbed by Sam Keith and is on eBay for an insane price at the beginning of this video. So that's like the only one I've ever seen. So I don't know if the red one ever made the market, was published, and the rumor is that only 10 test variants of the blue exist. And one of them is online, so at least we know that exists. There's also an ashcan-sized 1/2 mini comic that they made, and it's got an expensive platinum variant because it's Wizard and it was the 90s and its image, so everything's got a variant. Then we're going to fast forward all the way to the 2010s. The MAXX Maximized. IDW came to Sam Keith and they were like, hey, we want to reprint all the MAXX stuff, all 35 issues. We're going to do original covers, and then the 1 in 25s are going to be remixes of the OG covers from the first run, and then we're going to let you come back, and apparently Sam Keith wasn't happy with the coloring of the original book, so they recolor the whole series, which is really pointless and sort of in the spirit of George Lucas, I guess. I don't get the point of it. It doesn't change anything, but they exist, and the 1 in 25s can be a little bit tough. Go for a couple bucks, and there's randomly a blank variant for 13, which is the only blank cover they've ever done for the MAXX. Although they might have done one for the next one I'm talking about, but a straight MAXX series, it's the only the MAXX blank that I know of, but I think there is one for this next one, technically, because Sam Keith would return after all these years to do a MAXX mini-series alongside DC and IDW, MAXX Batman Arkham Dreams, random crossover, and it would start in October of 2018. It's got a million variants, even a 1 in 25 Jim Lee cover. You got a Sam Keith original art, all kinds of stuff. And the last issues 2 and 3 would drop on time, and then they'd have to wait for Sam Keith, because October of 2020 issue 4 would drop, and then November the final issue would come out. Thank God he finished before 2020 of December, because this never would have finished. But there was a big 2-year hiatus. What a fitting return for Sam Keith to come back and finish with a 2-year hiatus. That's pretty funny to me. It's just because, and also ironically, the final issue of the MAXX came out in 98, and his return in 2018 would be quickly followed by an absence. To cap it all off, doing some backup research, I landed on Comic Vine, and they also have Comic Scene number 34 highlighted. I'm not sure. I guess there's a MAXX Spotlight. I don't know. I don't have that issue, so something I guess worth throwing out there. But moral of the story is Sam Keith has a league of diehard fans that will spend big money on some tough 90s ghosts. So definitely a lot of stuff worth knowing about. Keep an eye out. Even if you're not a MAXX fan, just know if they're the dollar bins, there could be some expensive stuff out there. And maybe some fun stuff. I mean, look, the MAXX is a fun read up to a certain extent. I'm not a big fan of the later issues, but I'd still collect them because there's only so much MAXX stuff out there. The variants, there's a lot of expensive ones that I'm not going to pay more than a couple bucks for personally. But they're out there. And yeah, look, you could possibly make a couple bucks. So, and just because this video isn't long enough, let's talk about a couple other cool MAXX shit that's out there, non-comic, that they just made. Like, there's a MAXX cassette tape, an Atari Jaguar game for some reason that I kind of want to play. A bag of Izzes, which is really cool. Some great figures, an awesome statue. Limited 5,000 portfolio print run. Topps cards, and a dope-ass MTV show with the Liquid Hour or whatever they called it. So, overall, there's a lot of MAXX stuff to collect if you're a MAXX fan. Because they never stop making it. They just never stop making it. So, the MAXX, it's a cool character. A lot of diehard fans with deep history. And even the mystery of the MAXX on who he is and why is he there, what's everybody's history. Originally, it was all pretty unclear. throughout the book, you learn more and more about the characters, but again, it took years and years for the book to come out. So even when the Topps cards came out, they had apparently little like hints and stuff like that, and like clues on the back of the cards for the history of these characters and stuff like that. You know, the seed giver stuff and all kinds of randomness. But did I miss a MAXX appearance? Let me know down below, because I think I got them all, but let me know. What character should I break down next? Again, let me know down below. If you don't already follow me here on Instagram and Facebook, I drop stuff up on YouTube. I try every day with the shorts. Sometimes I get a little choppy with the shorts. I'm always dropping a video every Wednesday, sometimes on Sundays as well. And this time, I like the MAXX. It's ridiculous. It's just Sam Keith goodness. So I decided to do a little video breaking down possibly all the MAXX stuff. I might have missed something, and again, let me know down below. Of course, what character should I do next? And of course, on Instagram, I do a series called Tales from a Hunt, where I talk about different comic books and series and stuff I pick up. The Tales one's more about me going out and finding stuff. It's talking about, people I ran into, stories I have, stuff I didn't buy, stuff like that. And then, the stuff I do buy ends up in the haul videos on YouTube and on Facebook. I do all kinds of different stuff. Facebook group Fandoms Unleashed. You can get a behind-the-scenes look at comics. We can have in-depth discussions about comics, movies, toys, whatever you want to post. Go check all that out down in the description below. Until next time, peace.
Not the Australia they teach you about. The cities, the outback. No, the real Australia. The smoking caves. The gods who eat mountains. The flying dragons. The rivers of gold. The leopard queen.